You might have heard this phrase a lot, but the best things in life aren't free. But we really want them to be, don't we? In a time where visibly looking the part is seemingly more important than actually being the part, this reality becomes all too real. Thanks to social media and today's culture, it's become easier than ever for our desires to take the driver's seat in place of our better judgment. If only we were able to keep that luxury up for so long, when we're paying no mind to our future, we're just living in the moment. But unfortunately, the true lifestyle that you want, both present and future, requires balance and discipline. So here's the good news. You have way more control over it than you think you do. And there's no better or easier place to start building a solid foundation of financial knowledge than learning how to budget and save. I'm Chris Jr., and welcome to Clearview Finance. Let's tackle the budgeting portion of that equation first. When you're setting financial goals or even a financial plan in general, the last thing you want to do is put the cart before the horse. In simpler terms, you don't want to be making financial decisions, big or small, without first identifying what your own financial standing is. You want to find out what your cash inflows and outflows are, and then you want to develop some type of method or system of maintaining those inflows and outflows so that they're sustainable. Only then will you be able to set reasonable money goals and expectations. So your inflows. Let's talk about your inflows for a second. What are we really saying? We're really talking about your income. We're trying to determine your income and determine the sources at which your money is coming from. So what are some common sources of this, right? I mean, I think you could ring them off yourself, but your salary, your side hustles, if you have any, if you're retired, you might have some retirement income sources such as a retirement, 401k plan, maybe your social security benefit, maybe you're on Medicare, you're receiving some income from Medicare. Maybe you have some investment income in the form of dividends, or maybe you're receiving money from rental property that you own. Again, these are just some examples to get the ball rolling. Honestly, again, this shouldn't be too complicated because, let's be honest, I don't know of too many people that don't know where they're getting their money from. But either way, it's useful to have those sources all laid out in front of you so you are aware of all their different functions, how frequently you're receiving money from each source, and how much you're receiving, obviously. So, on to the outflows, right? What are outflows? These are just expenses. These are anything that's basically chipping away at your big pile of money that you've accumulated over the years. But then you also want to look at those expenses and you want to determine, how much of your own money do you need to divert towards your needs and wants so that they're satisfied. Keep in mind that everybody's expenses will vary based on their location, their lifestyle, and their own individual needs. Now, this portion of the process is the one that's probably the most personal to you, and it's also the one that's the most telling because you really start to get a feel for what's, again, a need and a want. You start to kind of look at maybe some things that you could cut back on, some things that you're maybe overspending on. You also get a real feel for what your own individual spending habits are and what kind of maybe money personality you have. Now, when organizing your expenses, there's two different categories that you want to utilize the most. You want to figure out what your fixed costs are and what your variable costs are. So fixed costs, it's pretty self-explanatory. These are easier to quantify, they're consistent. On a month-to-month basis, you know exactly what you're paying to a T. This could be things like your house, your car payments, maybe you have some subscriptions, you know what that price is. Those prices don't really fluctuate too much. But then you got your variable costs. And again, it's pretty self-explanatory, but these are prices that vary, they fluctuate, they're harder to quantify, they're inconsistent. Right? Say like what you spend on yourself for entertainment purposes, trips to the movies, maybe you like to go to concerts, but you don't go to a concert every month, right? And then your grocery bill is not gonna be the same. You're not gonna buy the same amount every single time. And whenever you're eating out, those prices fluctuate, those vary. Maybe you treat yourself to an upper scale dinner this month and You like bar food this month or fast food that month? It's variable. It's harder to track. It's harder to quantify. Think about that, especially when you're breaking down your budget. So from here, you're gonna wanna, outside of those two categories, when you're really looking at those expenses, you wanna label the needs and the wants. This is helping you get that feel for what you need to cut out or cut back on. So now that we've determined all that and have it all laid out in front of us, we are in a greatly improved position to make better, more informed decisions regarding our money. And that's really great because having that basic understanding of your income and expenses already puts you way ahead of the game. But those were the easy parts, right? The biggest thing now that we have to focus on is staying on budget, keeping that budget healthy. Just like when you're taking your fitness seriously, consistency is key. But we're all human, right? It's hard to be consistent. Maybe you get tired of going to the gym so early in the morning or so late at night or right after work. You get tired of chicken and rice for every meal. You want to treat yourself every once in a while. There's a much simpler framework for you to follow than any kind of fitness or diet plan. And that framework is the 20-50-30 rule. So the rule works like this. After you receive your paycheck, you want to calculate your after-tax dollars, and then you want to divert them in that 20-50-30 format, where you're putting 20% of that after-tax money towards your savings, 50% going towards your needs, and 30% going toward your wants. Essentially what this rule is doing is it's systemizing your spending so that you're not doing more thinking than you need to be. And now everybody's different. I always throw that disclaimer out there. So you could adjust it accordingly based on your unique lifestyle, but some iteration of this rule is smart to use. So let's do a quick example. Say Steven's after-tax income per year is $45,500, and each paycheck he receives is around $1,750. Steven would like to save toward a new car, but he first needs to address this glaring credit card debt he's in, which amounts to around, say, $4,000. Steven wants to shake off this debt, obviously, so he takes 20% of his paycheck, which I think amounts to roughly $350, and on each paycheck, he uses that $350 to chip away at that credit card debt. So now fast forward to 4 months, he's passively paid it off. Now from there, he can start diverting some of that savings cash he sets aside toward that new car. Now let's rewind back to the present. And Steven sets aside 50% of that paycheck, which rounds out to about $870, and he puts that towards his necessities, his needs, AKA his cost of living. And finally, Steven takes 30% of that paycheck and puts it toward whatever he wants, which rounds out to roughly $525. Congratulations, the budget has been established and we have our system of maintaining it and keeping it healthy. We can now move on to the wide range of different opportunities that this opens up for us. Be sure to check back in for part 2 on how to save. I'm Chris Jr., and I'll see you next time for more Clearview Finance.